This is Betsy and Thomas for the American Intelligence Media, and today we've got some Trump tweets and a guest. We have Michael McKibben here to help us decode these tweets. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Okay.
It's an honor to be here.
Well, good. And you know we drove a long way to see you, so that makes it even all the better because we know you drove too. Okay, let's start out. August 30th, we've got this tweet here. Thomas, the news from the financial markets is even better than anticipated. For all of you that have made a fortune in the markets or seen your 401ks rise beyond your wildest expectations, more good news is coming.
It is an honor to attempt to decode Trump tweets. Such an honor. What that means is, folks, I'm doing you a favor. I stopped the plunge protection team from taking the stock market down. I told you it's rigged. I'm rigging it now. Stay in it. I'll give you a warning right before I crash it because I'm going to take down the U.S. Fed. And at that point, we will be taking down the stock market because it's 1/3 supported by fake investments from the central banks. So what he's talking about here is absolutely beautiful. He's talking about the death of the Fed.
Well, very good. And so it will pay to watch the Trump tweets if you're in the market, right?
Yeah, you
kind of like the ultimate insider, right?
You better.
Okay, very good.
How you'll know is when he freezes the central bank's investments on the stock market. Sell, sell, sell.
The next Trump, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner had nothing to do with the so-called pushing out of Don McGahn. The fake news media has it purposely so wrong. They love to portray chaos in the White House when they know that chaos doesn't exist. Just a smooth running machine with changing parts.
We told you that's all about fake justice. It's all about the fact that everybody on his team is going bankrupt because they have to hire lawyers to fight SS Herr Mueller and Rat Rodenstein, you know. I mean, basically, everybody knows this. And how about the chaos in the White House with how many times was General Kelly going to leave? What was that? 100 different times they said he was going to leave? You know, they just create the chaos. And here's the reason he's leaving. Because he doesn't agree with Trump on what really should be going on with Mueller. But that's okay. He stated that from the beginning. They have not seen eye to eye for a long, long time, folks. So when they say, when Trump says the word purposely, I want you to notice he's now using different words. This means crime. This means lies. This means conspiracy. And he's going to use these words from now on until he takes down the mainstream media for racketeering and a conspiracy, a monopoly to commit crimes. In other words, the lack of decency in broadcasting. And something else I want to mention. The Facebook, Google, YouTube, they're all broadcasters. Don't be fooled. They're all broadcasters. And what they make available to you is, in fact, their political statement about what they believe. So when you get these reports from mainstream media, what you're actually getting is a campaign message. It should say paid for by the Democratic Party. And that's what's going to happen, and that's how he's going to get him. That's how he's going to take him down.
Well, we've got the expert right here about fake justice and fake social media. What do you have to say? Anything about that, Michael?
Well, it's a good point on purposely. Purposely. Because in defamation law, a public figure, it's really hard to defame a public figure unless you're doing it maliciously and willfully. So it's an interesting choice of words, purposely.
All right, the next tweet. The only thing James Comey ever got right was when he said that President Trump was not under investigation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know,
what a great
he's just
statement.
a master troll, isn't he?
He's
great.
He
he's
is.
slinging these tweets right and left, knocking down the enemy.
Oh my gosh, it's just absolutely beautiful what he's saying here. He is saying that James Comey is the liar of liars. He can't open his mouth without lying. That means he's perjured himself every time he testified. Oh, that is correct. Trump is correct. But what is he really saying here? 3 times in a row, publicly, and 3 times as testimony, Comey said Trump was never under investigation. He's making a joke, tongue-in-cheek, folks. Trump wasn't under investigation. He was under a CIA counterintelligence crossfire hurricane interagency operation. It was a takedown. It was a black ops take down. They do this in all other countries. We have interfered in so many elections through the CIA and the rogue CIA and corporatism. So what he's saying here is, this is tongue-in-cheek. He's saying Comey can't even lie correctly about lying.
Okay, I'm very excited about the person who will be taking the place of Don McGahn as White House counsel. I liked Don, but he was not, and that's in capital letters there, Thomas, responsible for me firing Bob Mueller or Jeff Sessions. So much fake reporting and fake news.
They're trying to make it that it's an argument between his lawyer and himself, just like they tried to make Michael Cohen an argument between Trump and Cohen. Here's what happened with Trump and Cohen. Cohen was screwing everybody. Trump didn't even know that he was being recorded. All those recordings are illegal. That evidence will never stand, and there is no such thing as the crime that is being mentioned as the election interference from Cohen, saying that Trump is somehow connected to that. They love to connect Trump to lawyers who are doing bad things, but Trump needed bad lawyers to represent him. He was in New York City. So what is really going on here? Trump is going to get a new lawyer who's going to go do what Joe DiGenevo does. How do you say his name? DiGenevo. And Rudy Giuliani. Get out in front of the narrative. Drive the narrative. That's what his lawyer was supposed to be doing. But he couldn't because he didn't have enough money to actually pay enough lawyers to represent him if he ever opened his mouth in public, because it would have been used against him, as every other person in his team is in fact being harassed legally by SS Herr Mueller and Rat Rodenstein, and that means, of course, Jeff Sessions. This is an illegal attack against a sitting president, and again, there are 1,400 people that he has appointed that have yet to be confirmed, 400 of them in key positions. This is nothing more than obstruction. It's absolutely ludicrous that anybody thinks that someone on Trump team is leaving because of this reason or that reason. They're leaving because they can't handle the fire that Trump is under. What do you think about that, Michael?
Well, this whole story is maddening because it's so uncreative. It's such a waste of human energy and effort. And what strikes me with all of these stories, endless stories coming and being published by CNN and MSNBC, is it's nothing but self-absorbed lawyers who think that their ideas are somehow better than everyone else's, when in fact they're just talking to each other. It's an echo chamber, and they impress each other with their own verbosity, and it's not creative. And I love the way Trump is just hammering them with tweets, because it just cuts right through that.
Michael, I want to ask a question. Dusty Rhodes, the whore, her lawyer, what's his name, Joe Avenatti or whatever it is? Avenatti. I mean, he's a criminal on his own right. And then you got Lanny Davis, who is now Cohen's lawyer, who was a corrupt Hillary lawyer. So you have these lawyers. Why are they even allowed to speak about a case that has yet to be tried? Isn't that spoiling the venue? Isn't that illegal? Can they actually come out and tell people these lies, as Lanny Davis did, and then he had to walk it back and say, no, Trump was not aware of the meeting at Trump Towers ahead of time?
Well, it's all theater, because, yeah, they're allowed to. If the client gives them permission, they can talk about it. But if the client's not giving them the permission, then no, they can't talk about it.
Well, for instance, all the leaks coming out of SS Sir Herr Mueller's investigation, all those leaks, those jury members, they heard things, they watched the news. Didn't all those leaks spoil what was supposed to be a secret trial?
Yeah, it's called the fruit of a poisonous tree. I mean, once you start poisoning the water, everything's poison that's associated with that trial. But they don't seem to be following any of those common sense rules. They're just playing games. This is all theater, in my opinion.
Well, I bet you've heard of the beautiful Nellie Orr. So Trump is on Nellie. He says, wow, Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr's wife, is a Russia expert who is fluent in Russian. She worked for Fusion GPS, where she was paid a lot. Collusion. Bruce was a boss at the Department of Justice and is, unbelievably, still there. And why is he still there, folks?
He's SES.
That's right.
And he's on the Ultimate Review Board.
You've got us nice and triggered now.
Yes.
He's SES.
Well, the thing is all patriots out here should know what senior executive service is. This is the Obama's army. It's really the bureaucracy inside our bureaucracy that is obstructing the will of the people and actually doing measures to overthrow the United States government. And we can't talk about this enough, and you should be talking about it too. And if your favorite alternative independent media channel is not prolifically talking about the corruption of senior executive service, you need to turn them off. They're wasting your time.
So I have a question. Why do we use the word collusion? Why are we not using the word conspiracy? Because conspiracy is a law. Laws against conspiracy, but there's no laws against collusion. So why do we? Is it just because we don't want to say conspiracy? Is that the reason?
Well, no, he's making a joke here because they accuse him of collusion when there isn't such a law.
Yes.
And so what he's basically saying is, oh, well, if I colluded, then what do you call this? Is this collusion? No, this should be called war actors in an active coup d'etat and war act, enemies of the state, meddling in our election. And then after that, it was direct attacks upon the executive branch. So Nellie Orr, we now find out from a whistleblower leak, as kind of the tag note on the whistleblower leak that said that Hillary was sending courtesy copies of every single message coming to her and going out to the Chinese. Well, guess what, folks? Nellie Orr was working for the FBI's program called Open Source Works, and she was an expert in it, one of the top experts in how you go out and you gather information using basically what Peter Thiel has created as Palantir. It's kind of it's an FBI, CIA, and corporate version of it that they make legal for anybody to go out, so you can do opposition research on anybody you want. And when you can't find it, you can just make it up by pushing a button. So she was working for the FBI. We now find out, even when she stopped working for the FBI and started working for Fusion GPS, looks like she might have been on the CIA's payroll because John Brennan couldn't take it, that he didn't have more control of what the dossier was amassing as the oppositional research against Trump. So Nellie Orr was what James Clapper called she wasn't a spy, she wasn't a Russian spy, she was an informant that we sent into the Trump camp because he didn't understand how bad Russia is. That's what Clapper told us on national news, okay? So what we have here is Nellie Orr got herself a ham radio license, and she is a Russian expert, and she was basically collecting Russian information as a Russian spy. She was the Russian spy, one of the Russian spies sent into the Trump campaign, but kind of from the outside, still paid by the government and paid by Fusion GPS, which was paid through Perkins Coie, Mark Elias, who Podesta and Hillary paid $12 million to come up with this nonsense, these lies, this foreign action against our own government, an attempt to overthrow our government. Let's just make it real clear. This is a George Soros regime change at this point, that from the beginning, Nellie Orr and Bruce Orr were the key people involved. Bruce Orr was played by Christopher Steele. Remember? Christopher Steele was told by Sir Richard Dearlove, the ex-head of the MI6, what you want to do, I know you hate Trump, so why don't you just go over and tell some State Department person or somebody you know high up in the DOJ that you just simply want to tell them that you hate Trump and that you're willing to gather information, oppositional research against him. Because really, when Christopher Steele started, he didn't have any. When Christopher Steele started talking to Mark Warner, he didn't have any research. That was created by Alexandria Chupala, who was the first one to start adding, as well as Oleg Deripaska and many other Russian oligarchs who were friends of John McCain, started adding nonsense. And then John Brennan went over to Russia to gather even more information. Sidney Blumenthal and Cody Shearer wrote their part of it. Comey gave his part of it. Brennan gave his part of it. Sergei Millian gave his part of it. You see what was going on here? Bruce Orr was played. He was the contact that then told Victoria Nuland, oh, how bad this is. So Victoria Nuland made up the lie that she got a call from Estonia stating that somebody had a video of Trump being peed on by Russian prostitutes. So Brennan spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, paid Sergei Millian and many other people combing every country on the earth looking for that video. It finally came up long after the election, and it isn't Trump and it isn't anything. So that's what we're dealing with. Nellie Orr was carrying the banner. She was carrying the Russian banner, She was probably the one placing those Russian ads. She was probably all 25 of the Russians that Mueller has named, who are all fake people or who certainly don't exist. They're not responding and they can't be indicted. But if you want a Russian spy, you should get the beautiful Nellie Orr.
Hey, I want to know, and nobody's answered me yet, is Bruce Orr Chinese? I just want to know. I mean, he's got a pretty high position up there. In one of our videos, you suggest that he's even Jeff Sessions' handler because, he's senior executive service. He's also one of those attorneys that sits on the DOJ 500.
Right.
Oh, well, let me just point out a little tiny thing here, okay? He is in charge, fourth in charge, and what was he in charge of? Special drug running programs and crime enforcement, and particularly drugs. Now, who is the number one drug runner in America right now? Just yesterday. China. Just yesterday, tons of these drugs. I'm not small amounts. We were talking about huge ships bringing over huge shipments of Chinese drugs that are pharmaceutical drugs and fake street drugs made from pharmacies brought into our country. Who would have to allow that? Bruce Orr.
But you said the word ships and Chinese ships, and we know that Elaine China Chow is all over this shipping. Do you have something like that?
Yeah, we've been getting calls from people on the East Coast that say a lot of that smuggling is occurring through toys, the shipment of toys from China to the U.S.
China has always lied and cheated about everything they've ever sent to this country. Remember when Graco products, I probably shouldn't say that, they put radioactive plastic in all the Graco products that infants use? Remember the lead paint in all the toys? Remember the poisons that they have put in? Remember the poisonous paints? Remember, how about the plastic rice? How about the fake gold and silver right now that is just a plague in the whole world gold market? That's all coming from China. How about the 7,000 tons that they lied and they said that they made off the Shanghai gold market? Nothing from China can you trust. Their microchips have their own mechanical engines on the back of them. All those...
well, that deal was cut in December of 2004 between IBM and Lenovo, when IBM sold its PC group to the Chinese. And ever since then, Lenovo products have been coming back with that ME spy engine basically in every device that they sell in the U.S.
And Trump, as soon as he came to power, no one noticed this much. He said, Lenovo, China, tough luck. When he went over there and got the $850 billion deal, which not a single penny of it worked out because China's big fat liars, though right before that they did a nice $1 billion deal with Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Oh, I guess I shouldn't be mentioning that. But so that didn't pan out, the deal with Trump. You don't want to know why? Because they lied, and Trump said, we are not going to allow you, with your Lenovo computers, to put your own microchips in them because you have your own mechanical engine riding on the back of them, and you have loaded them up with so much propaganda, so much garbage, so that you can spy on every American. No. That's the reason they didn't get the 5G contract.
Can I interrupt you, Douglas? There's another element of this besides the Lenovo ME engine. There's a specific algorithm that the NSA requires all software, hardware, firmware for export to be included, which is a backdoor key into everything. And if the NSA knows it, then clearly hackers know it. And it's called the dual ECDRBG algorithm. And it's essentially an embedded flaw that supposedly only the NSA knows that can get into anything.
Shh, the whole world knows now.
Yeah, well, it's a public document, so.
They used to be satisfied with Cisco routers having a backdoor, but now it goes right into the software and directly into the microchips.
Yes.
You point out it's in the software now. So China's not going to put a backdoor for the NSA and the CIA, okay? They have a backdoor. and it's called Dragonfly, and they are controlling every single device in China now because the traitor Eric Schmidt is still over there building himself a little Chinese kingdom. But here's the deal. You're going to lose on that. And I hope you have sold all of your stock, because your companies are going to go down because people know that you are an enemy of the state. And
Right.
that's what Trump calls you now, Mr. Eric Schmidt. You are an enemy of the state.
Okay, now let's get on, because the next two tweets is a quote from Greg Jarrett. Orr told the FBI the fake dossier, wasn't true. It was a lie, and the FBI was determined to use it anyway to damage Trump and to perpetrate a fraud on the court to spy on the Trump campaign. This is a fraud on the court. The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court is in charge of the FISA court. He should direct the presiding judge, Rosemary Collyer, to hold a hearing, haul all of these people from the DOJ and FBI in there, and if she finds that there were crimes committed, and there should be a criminal referral by her.
Whoa, Nellie.
Yeah.
Who said that?
That was Greg Jarrett.
I want to make sure everyone gets that that's Greg Jarrett, because Greg Jarrett is a little bit lacking in some of his details.
Well, it was just a single quote. So what would you add to that, Thomas?
That it is only a rumor that the behind closed doors remarks of Bruce Orr indicated that he said those things. We've also seen so much garbage out there of other people who say that they were inside of that meeting and they're reporting from the meeting and they reported a bunch of garbage. So we have to be a little bit careful about that. Now, Bruce Orr's text messages indicated all kinds of criminal activity, but it did not specifically say what he is quoting there. So where he got that, I don't know. But the point is, somebody in this chain, and it could be Bruce and the beautiful Nellie Orr, because they were so personally remunerated illegally while they were doing these things, they could get caught, and there might be nothing that can help them. A lawyer sitting behind them like they did with Peter Strzok or with Andrew McCabe or with William Precept, being told by FBI agents, you can't say that because that would make us all guilty. And so then they don't say anything. So we have to be very careful about that. But if anybody's going to crack, Bruce Orr would be a likely candidate, because he is as guilty as the day is long. And what he did is literally treasonous. And because he is such a powerful person, if he falls, SES will take a beating beyond imagination, because SES members don't like to be fired. That's why Andrew McCabe still has not his retirement, folks. I am certain Andrew McCabe is still receiving the same money he received before, because you can't just stop an SES person from being paid. And that's why Peter Strzok was only demoted. That's why Bruce Orr was demoted. That's why these people are just demoted. They, in most cases, aren't even fired. And if they are fired, you get a fake firing like Peter Strzok, fired from the FBI, but still working for the CIA, and nobody's going to tell you that. So we have to be very, very careful. I agree with the sentiment, and I hope Bruce Orr cracks and tells the whole truth and nothing but the truth and plead for immunity. But they will not tell the truth, and none of them will tell the truth. Mark my words. If they don't ask for immunity first, because they're as guilty as the rest of the people they were involved with. So if they do not have immunity, they are not going to be a songbird.
Well, what bothers me about these fraud on the court issues is that these judges, the rules of professional conduct are such that the judge is allowed to take at face value what an attorney is saying to him, because him or her, because they're officers of the court. And so it's a game. And so clearly the FISA court was just played like a fiddle. And so these attorneys, they just walk in there and they just lie. And these judges are supposed to be able to accept what they're saying is true when we know it's not true. So the whole game is up. And what he's saying there is that the FISA court is answers to the Chief Justice, and it doesn't appear that the Chief Justice is any more paying attention than Jeff Sessions is.
Well, I just want to also point out that this remark is quite incorrect. In 2016 of December, when the FISA court audit was made public, and they were in complete and absolute non-compliance, both internationally with the CIA and especially domestically with the FBI, that in fact, from the time that Comey came to office, never pulled a single FISA warrant. The first FISA warrant that we know that Comey had anything to do with was the fake one for Carter Page, which he signed off of, which he used the dossier on, which was completely fraudulent. Judge Collier came in after the FISA Inspector General report came out in December 2016, and what did they do? The Supreme Court justices did nothing. Nothing. They saw that it was the highest court in the land is that FISA court. It is the most top secret and is supposed to be the most foolproof. And there is no body supposed to get a FISA court warrant without absolute proof. For instance, the FISA court warrant Title I version of it for domestic spying on Carter Page, Comey had to swear that Carter Page was a Russian spy. He had to swear to that with evidence. Where's the evidence? He wasn't a Russian spy. He was an American spy who spied on Russians.
Well, he's an attorney. He's promised not to lie, Douglas. What's wrong?
But as you pointed out, whatever they say in court is accepted. Because why? They're supposed to be disbarred if they're liars and cheaters. Well, they're not disbarred. Matter of fact, they get raises.
But
Judge
disbarred
Collier,
by their own community of
precisely.
lawyers? I mean, really?
Collier was put in charge.
It happens occasionally.
Yes.
Well, I think engineers should be in charge of disbarments.
I agree.
Okay? Just a panel of you?
Right. Judge Collier was put in charge of correcting the discrepancies on the Inspector General's audit, which was asked for by Admiral Rogers when he saw the direct abuse when Obama ordered all raw intelligence to be made available to anyone who had a single sign-on that could unmask it. And he basically then allowed all agencies to unmask anything to do with the Trump campaign and anyone involved, even remotely with the Trump campaign. So Judge Collier, who he says should come in and do something, Judge Collier already did something. Judge Collier wrote a correction plan and gave them X number of days, I think it was 90 days, 60 days, to correct it. During that time, the Congress voted on whether or not to renew the FISA court. And in light of its Inspector General report that said that it was just completely corrupt, they shouldn't have renewed it, but they did. And then Judge Collier came out and said, okay, here's what needed to be corrected. All right, it's been corrected. And that is not right at all. Nothing has been corrected, folks. Because if Judge Collier would have done her job, then the people that they found in the audit, in the Inspector General's audit, ordered by Admiral Rogers, those people should have gone to jail, Judge Collier. And you should go to jail, Judge Collier, because you just allowed the FISA court to continue to be completely corrupt and to continue, even after you gave your audit corrections, to use the Carter Page fake lie piece of junk FISA warrant based upon that false dossier. You allowed it to be renewed 3 more times. So don't tell me how Judge Collier or Judge Collier's boss or dragging somebody into Judge Collier's court. The evidence is there, it's on record. Nobody needs to be dragged before the court. They need to be arrested for the crimes they've already committed. And that's what Bruce Orr is being insinuated in this remark of saying, and I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I actually see it on record.
Okay, I am going to just make a note that Kanye West says Trump wants to be the greatest president for Black Americans, and there is a video there that you can watch. But I want to get back on track here with the hatred and extreme bias of me by CNN has clouded their thinking and made them unable to function. But actually, as I have always said, this has been going on for a long time. Little Jeff Z has done a terrible job. His ratings suck. Yes, that was a presidential statement right there. And AT&T should fire him to save credibility.
It's shocking. I believe that Sesame Street has higher ratings than CNN at this point, and they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Mark Zuckerberg going over there and giving them the capital venture money to keep them afloat.
But patriots are doing their job because they realize that this is an enemy to the people, and they're not turning on CNN. They're turning it off. They're going to the gyms and saying, you turn this thing off or I'm going to cancel my membership. People are getting in your face to turn this stuff off. It's propaganda.
That's a very good point. Their only ratings come from the fact that they have agreements with all kinds of public groups to play CNN 24/7. That's the only reason they have any ratings. I don't think anybody watches them anymore.
Yeah, they play because they are being paid to be played in there.
And of course, they're liars. And again, he's insinuating that this is specific deceit that is, in fact, racketeering, because it goes, notice he mentions the other stations now. So he's going after them and he's saying, oh, you do the same thing, same lies, therefore, what is that called? Conspiracy to commit broadcasting crimes. And these crimes are against the Broadcasting Decency Act, because you cannot tell a lie knowing it's a lie.
Well, people are going to say the NDAA allows this kind of propaganda to go on, so go ahead and clarify that
NDAA
right now.
was changed. Trump took that out.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, folks. We told you that when he got the 2-year budget for the NDAA, he was just going to simply rewrite it any way he wanted, and he has. He just rewrote it again. So if you look there, look all you want. You're not going to find anything that allows propagandizing Americans anymore, not an NDAA.
Now, Michael, just to kind of catch everybody up with what AVID does in the media.
Well, AVID is a suite of products that are used in the broadcasting field to prepare video assets. So things you see on TV, the reader, the graphics, the videos that come behind the news broadcasts. And AVID also has a module that was built in 2010 to actually push the content to the news readers, so that when they're talking and looking straight into the camera, they're actually reading text that comes up over the lens. You can't see it as the viewer. And what we've learned is that AVID cut deals with the U.S. Digital Service, with Facebook, with the Department of State, and with Lord Mark Malloch Brown to build a product that would allow this board of broadcasting governors to push propaganda right to the teleprompters in the mainstream media newsrooms. So they don't even have to prepare their own material. It just can come to them. And that's how they can get such a uniform message across an international
which is very helpful when you want to brainwash the people.
Well, exactly.
Well, the next tweet continues on. What's going on at CNN is happening to different degrees at other networks, with NBC News being the worst. The good news is that Andy Lackey is about to be fired, for incompetence, and much worse. When Lester Holt got caught fudging my tape on Russia, they were hurt badly.
Fudging, that's called lying, that's called propaganda, and it's no longer legal, folks, and they don't seem to notice. I doubt that a single mainstream media news agency picked through the new National Defense Authorization Act to see whether or not propaganda is still legal. As we tell you, Trump behind the scenes is setting things up, and he's using U.S. Marshals, and he's using economics and the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. Treasury Office of Intelligence and Analysis to go after these people. There are a lot of people who are being hurt right now that you might not understand that Trump is actually attacking. He doesn't need to tell you, and he told you. He's not going to tell you his strategies when he's going after an enemy. What he's doing here, these are shots across the bow. Either you use the excuse of firing the people who run these news agencies and then let somebody else come in and try to do it at least a little bit better without all the lies, or you're just going down. What is he telling them? You are going to go down. I am in a war with you, and you are losing, and if you keep it up, I'm going to use my presidential powers. I'm going to withdraw all contracts from all of your pseudo-non-broadcasters that we've been talking about, these Silicon Valley cutouts, and then we're going to get the rest of you, because AVID and ISIS management is 100% proof of a conspiracy to propagandize America, which is no longer legal.
That's what I was going to ask, both of you. So they should be immediately pulling the use of Avid and any of this propaganda stuff immediately. But then what will Dianne Feinstein's husband, Richard Bloom, do when his stock? Oh, that's right, he'll probably cash in after he hears our audio, whatever it is we do, right?
Yeah, you start taking these tools away and they basically will collapse. And you know, one of my perspectives is I used to be an organizational development consultant. And one of the things you notice in dysfunctional organizations is when the whole leadership team is dysfunctional, everyone in the you might as well assume everyone in the organization is dysfunctional. And it's, if you've ever had an alcoholic family and had to go through that intervention, you learn that people who are around dysfunctional people are themselves become what are called codependents. They become dysfunctional themselves. What I see in all of these media organizations, you've got levels of dysfunction that must go all the way through the organization. So when you talk about reforming a few people, I don't think from an organizational development viewpoint that that's possible. You're going to have to radically reform the culture, or it needs to go away and something else needs to take its place.
Well, right now we pointed out that Valerie Jarrett, in the Democratic bunker, the fake Obama house in Washington, D.C., through U.S. Digital Service, which then collapsed. But what didn't collapse was what Obama had built, which was a digital service that can run through the bunker after it goes through NSA, then it goes through CIA, then it goes through FBI, then it goes through the Democrat bunker, and then it goes to Avid, and then it goes to ISIS management to make it slightly individualized for individual stations, but not much. And then what do you have? You have a homogeneously exfiltrated, leftist, totally democratic, and let's admit it, what kind of country do we live in when we say all mainstream media is democratic?
Well, not democratic.
Democrats.
Democrats.
Sorry.
Demon
A bunch of
rats.
demon rats. When you can say that all but 3% of mainstream media is paid for by Democrats, and let's just go back to this. You see this happening with Steyer, with Soros, with Stein, all these people. What do? I have billions, and I'm going to buy this election. I have billions. I'm going to donate to organizations that are not for profit who should be closed, and they're going to run my agenda. I am simply going to state that I am just going to, as Eric Schmidt, spend $1.5 billion to create a U.S. digital network that then I'm going to use later. And that's what he did. He simply turned it around, and it's going directly to Alphabet.
Right, they're still using that code, and I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, and it goes through Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett gets to say, oh, they're not going to say that about Barack Obama. We don't want them to know we have 33,000 foot soldiers. We don't want them to know that Michelle Obama's foundation has been rolled into President Obama's...
It's not Michelle Obama, it's Big Mike.
Big Mike's...
And
Big Mike and Barry
right.
have merged 4 different foundations that cannot be merged because they learned this from the Clintons, and they're never going to let you see anything from his entire 8 years because you got to see this with the Kavanaugh. 50 lawyers can't get the records from Obama concerning anything Kavanaugh did during the Obama administration. Why? As we told you, the library is going to be held up, and now it's in abeyance because they tried to steal a public park from poor people in Chicago. So what is going on? It's an information war, folks. And the mainstream media is losing the battle, and you now see the step up from all of these information Silicon Valley cardboard cutouts. And I do not consider Eric Schmidt a cardboard cutout. He is pure evil, okay? He has skills. He is truly one of the people leading this charge against Americans. And now, as far as I'm concerned, he's not even American. He's helping the Chinese, and he is showing them how to hack into our systems. He's showing the Chinese how to control their people better. He just put, let's remember, the facial recognition that he just brought to Dragonfly in China just put 1 million Muslims in re-education internment camps. Half of them die, either in the camp or immediately when they come out. 500,000 people. We told you Eric Schmidt is responsible for deaths. 500,000 Muslims in China. Thank you very much, Eric Schmidt. You're not going to do it in America.
The organ harvesting trucks that are going throughout China.
Final tweet, guys, and then we'll wrap it up. I just cannot state strongly enough how totally dishonest much of the media is. Truth doesn't matter to them. They only have their own hatred agenda. This includes fake books, which come out about me all the time. Always anonymous sources and pure fiction. Enemy of the people.
Lies, conspiracies. That's what he's saying. Again, he has named them. He's getting ready to charge them. And these printing companies that print books like Donna Brazil's Alibi, all these alibi books.
Them? I mean, where's Jeff Sessions? He's not going to do it.
Well, what they do is they make the mistake of mentioning private individuals in these things, and they can then sue them, just as Melania has won 2 lawsuits against them. They don't understand what they're dealing with because lawlessness had come to rule for 8 years, and it was everybody grab your own. It's the Clinton version of lawlessness and the Obama version. At least the Bushes kept it in the globalists and the New World Order, not the Clintons and not Obama. It's everybody grab whatever you can. Total lawlessness. There is no law enforcement in Washington, D.C. Anyone they're arresting, just look at anyone the Department of Justice has arrested recently. They're not even guilty. They're simply on the wrong side. The Department of Justice, 117,000 members, simply protect the D.C. guilty.